roll, so we have a roll at the top. Okay.
Happy Friday, Illiana community. Lance David's here. We are kind of going to redo what we were attempting to do the other night with some technical difficulties. So I'm going to kind of quickly go through our proposal for the association on phase 2. So hopefully you see kind of on your screen what I'm talking about. And I want to start off with a little background of how we got to this point as a school. And 5 years ago we came up with a vision plan. And it was a 5-year vision plan, and we are in year 3 of that right now. But the goal at the end of that vision plan was to do phase 2. We always built this building to be phased in. So we built it for 500 students, and when we also built it, we had to scale back on some programs that are pretty vital to what we're all about. So that was always our goal. But as many of you know, enrollment has gone up a little faster than we originally anticipated. And so 2021-22, we went from 406 students to 473. That took us by surprise a little bit. And in that time period, we wanted to make sure that we were in a fiscally responsible position. So when phase 2 came, this year, we were expecting our enrollment to go down. We graduated a very big senior class, and we were expecting small feeder school classes. So we budgeted for 463. Well, we ended up with 501. So God has blessed us amazingly. And in 2 years, we've been up almost 100 kids, which is fantastic growth. And I get asked all the time, why so much growth so quickly? Well, there's a lot of different reasons for it. One, the increased Illinois or the Indiana voucher. We also have the Illinois voucher, which has also helped too, get some students. How we handled COVID really made a difference for some people. We were able to stay in school most of the time. And some Christian families who were maybe in the public schools or homeschooling saw that and have come over. And we just had a lot of people sharing some of the good stories of Illiana. As always, best advertising is word of mouth. And when people leave Illiana about the life-changing experiences they've had, they tell people. And we've had a lot of families coming for that reasons. And lately our projections have underestimated growth. And when you look at our feeder schools, they're busting at the seams too. So all in the time is now to do this. So last year, knowing we were going to and our community people to address space issues, but just as important as the space issues, address program issues. Some things that we need to do a little better to make sure we are teaching all of God's kids in the best way possible. So that's kind of brought us where we are today when we are looking to expand. So phase 2, people ask me all the time, there's 5 main parts to it, and I'll explain these parts, and then I'll get to the why. But it's about classrooms. As I've said, we built this place for 500. We are there. And you can't evenly space out 500 kids in every classroom because some classes have more kids, some classes have less. But we're also maxed out in our community spaces like the commons. If you would come here during break time, it's just this side of chaos because there's so many kids coming down to get a muffin and a donut and a coffee and just to be together. There's a lot of crowding here, so we just need some more community space as well. It's going to be about vocation and entrepreneurship, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. It's about worship and the arts, and it's about student services. So that's what this phase is going to be about. But before we dive into the actual plans and what it's going to look like, I wanted to get to the why. Because I never want us to get to the point where and honestly, I believe it's now more important than ever. So I got a few different things for my why, the school's why we want to do this. And it goes down to our vision statement of developing a passion for God, people, and the world. We only get 4 years to do that, to lay that foundation. So when they leave here, they are prepared, they are strong, no matter what they do. And this was reinforced to me a couple days ago when I had 3 graduates, just from last year, come back. And they specifically sought me out, like, Mr. Davis, you wanted to say a couple things. One, we felt prepared academically. But 2, we felt prepared spiritually. And that's what's great. That's exactly what you want to hear from your graduates. And that's what we are doing here. We are laying that foundation. That's why it's so important that we let every kid who wants a Christian education to be able to have one. So we're laying those foundations, and you need space to do that. You can't do that if you don't have the space. But second of all, we're going to start some new programs and bring back some old ones which teach the skills that are needed for today. And one of the things I talk about a lot is education now is so different because so much of the knowledge is like right here. I can Google the answer to anything. We teach skills, critical thinking, working together, problem solving, hard work, because we're educating kids for jobs that may not even exist now when you think about it. 15, 20 years from now, with the way technology is going, we're preparing kids for a whole different career sometimes that we don't even know about. So we're teaching those skills, and we need different programs sometimes to do that. And another thing that is my why is I talked about this a lot in my blogs, and you guys have read about it, but I remember last year reading and figuring out that kids spend 5 to 7 hours a day on their phones. That's where they get so much of truth in their minds. I hear it all the time. The kid will say, TikTok says. Well, what does the Bible say? So one of our goals this year has been to challenge these kids to read the Word, to pray, to balance that out so that they're spending 5 to 7 minutes a day in the Word. And that's not enough, but that's a start. But that's what we can do here. We can give that foundation of the Bible is the source of truth. God is truth, not what they see in the world. And we have 4 years to do that, and we need the space to do that. And we're teaching grit. That working hard, that I'm not going to give up, I'm not going to quit, which are skills that you can take into relationships and any career you have. And then finally, buffaloes. And people the other night when I presented this were like, buffaloes? Well, for me, I read about this the other day. It really is intriguing me, and I'm actually talking about this tonight at Praise Crowd after Dodgeball. Buffaloes are interesting because when a storm comes, or when a big event comes, they don't run away from it. They go straight into it. They're aggressive because the quicker they go into the storm, they attack it and they can get out of it quicker. As opposed to like cows who turn around and try and outrun the storm, but cows don't run. They don't walk very fast. So they're stuck in it longer, and the longer they're in it, the more miserable they get. And then they start doing crazy things. And I want us to attack this campaign and this challenge of developing a passion for God, people, in the world like buffaloes, to go straight into it. And to do it with strength, because this is a huge program, but we can do it. And I think this is important for us to go right into it. So what's it going to look like? Well, this first picture is, if you can look at it on your screen. Many kids, and that is our goal at this point as we look at our projections. So this is kind of the rendering drawings of what it would look like from Calumet. It's that grassy area. That's kind of what we're looking to expand phase 2. So I'll go through these drawings very quickly. We kind of broke it down into three. Crowd. Well, we're going to have one of those tonight right in that space, and now I can fit more kids in there. You're also going to see a bunch of more classrooms. You'll see 2 on the bottom. You'll also one of the things this program does is if you've been in our hallways ever during the day, they're very, very crowded because everything flows in one direction. It comes out. Phase, the $9 million phase. The second phase, and I'm moving back, this is on the main floor again, is our vocational and entrepreneurial. Build into that program. But also it's entrepreneurial. And those are skills we want to teach every kid, whether they're going to college, whether they're staying home to work, whether they're going to the trades, because we're a community that's built on starting businesses. But even if it's not that, the basic skills of budgeting, of taking risks, are things we want to teach our kids. And that's important stuff. I always say so many times that I know a lot of people who went to school for a certain thing, but never taught business stuff. And I think budgeting and stuff like that is important. We want every kid to be able to know that stuff. So this is going to be an exciting space, but it's not just going to be just that. We're partnering with businesses like we do already. We already have an internship program for seniors where they can leave campus for 2 periods a day and connect with local businesses and learn the skills that we might not be able to teach even in a situation like that. So I love that partnership where it's a little bit of a hybrid version, but it's an exciting thing to do. And this would also we would move our STEM classes down to this space as well. $1 million section. Those two together, about 14 and a half, 15 million, would give us 17 new learning spaces, which would be amazing. It almost, that doesn't quite double what we have, but it would create enough room for us to have 750 kids. And that's a start, but we also want to pour into the auditorium. This is a place where we would have the play, the musical, chapel, praise crowds, but it's more than that. We were designed for worship. We were created for worship. This would be the centerpiece of who we are. And it would be the place where the Illiana community gathers. I have dreams of this, like it would fit 1,100 people, and we gather here to worship, bringing youth groups from all over the area here. And we have that drawing power. You'll see that even tonight, like after the dodgeball tournament, we're going to have praise crowd here. We have the ability to draw. I want you to hear. We want to present the gospel in creative and unique and powerful ways to build that foundation. And it's great. I always say praise crowd is one of my favorite things, where we just gather and worship and sing. And this is the hallmark of this project, I think. We were created for worship. People ask me all the time if I miss anything about the old building. And not really, except the one thing I miss, that chapel. And even though it was uncomfortable, the wooden seats, over all the years we had to shave down some of the stuff that were written on them. It was hot, the sound didn't work, but it was a dedicated place for chapel, for the arts, for worship. And we don't have that here. We share spaces, we're setting up chairs, we're sharing with Jim, and there are times we have to shut down the Ark for 2 weeks for the play and musical, and those people do an amazing job of making it work. But we want to really tie into those gifts of our kids, and this space would allow us to do that. And that would be the second floor of the auditorium. First phase this in, there was no ark, there was no parking lots, there was no athletic fields, there was no bleachers, there was no furniture. But as we started to build and saw the excitement, the community continued to give and it continued to build. We were able to get the ark up because we realized doing it with the rest of the project saved a lot of money. And the same thing here. If we can get the shell up of the auditorium with this yellow part and blue part, it saves us a lot of money. And we want to also be stewardly in that. So that's why this project comes to a number at this point of about $22 million. So our goals quickly, because I kind of just mentioned. And women. Student services to grow more classrooms. Auditorium for worship. The community to gather for chapel, for the arts. Proceed with phase 2. So $9 million for classrooms, $5 million for vocation, $7.5 million is collected. So if we get $9 million, we'll start on that first phase. Our goal in this is to start digging by spring. Because if we dig by spring, we can have this open in the fall of 2024. With our enrollment projections going above 500 very, very quickly, next year is going to be difficult around here. We're already looking at how we have classes maybe kind of in the hallways or some common spaces, because we are looking, our budget numbers aren't fully in yet, but it could be between 530 and maybe 540 kids. It's going to get a little tight. So our goal is that in 2 years from right now, we're in that space. So if the fundraising works, we'll get to that point. So that's the motion. People ask me about debt all the time. The original motion of the first phase still stands in that, and that was we can continue to kind of build but never exceed that $5 million debt limit. And that's our goal in this one. As you know, as I said before, we don't like debt. We've been trying to get rid of it, and we're still paying debt. We're going to continue to pay that, but we also want a little flexibility if we need to get close to a finish line to get some of these projects done. So that's kind of what we're looking to do, and that's the motion. There's a few places you can vote on this. Online at illianachristian.org, you'll see you can vote there. Where a lot of you got information, you can send this into Illiana or drop it off. Or at the association meeting on Monday, which is pretty much just going to be a voting meeting. We've already presented the material. But if you want to come, that starts at 7 o'clock on Monday, October 17th. And if you want to remember who can vote, this is all in our Constitution, but that's what we're looking for. 3 years. Now, we're flexible. I've already talked to some people who maybe want 4, or some people just want to pay it. But 3 years we feel is a decent amount of time, but as always, whatever you need. Debt. And at worst, you only have $5 million in debt. My goal is to not even get to that point. I like, when you look at it, how loan to value, what we're looking at, we have a $30 million campus and only have $2.2 million in debt. So we don't want to go there, but we want to leave that flexibility if we need it. Someone asked me, what happens if you go over 750 students? Is there a cap? We do not necessarily have a cap yet. We think 750 is a good number, but my heart is this. I don't ever want someone to turn away a kid who wants a good, solid Christian education. That is my heart, and this is the board's heart, but those decisions haven't to be made. There is more space here, if we needed to add more classrooms. In this current kind of placemat we have here, we can probably get up to 1,000 if we needed to. What if we don't get the money? If we don't get the money, we don't build. That's kind of the idea, but some of the money we've already gotten already, things are looking pretty good so far. What will you do for space until parts of phase 2 are completed? We're looking at trying to find space, and that's one of the things our board is looking at right now. We will make it work. We have creative people, we have great people, and we have phenomenal teachers. But it's going to get a little tight. People ask me, do you know there's a lot of people asking for money right now? Really amazing right now to see the growth of Christian schools and the church. It is a great time right now. So I'm excited about that. And I know it's going to cost money, and I get that. And anything people can do as we give to this is amazing. Every gift matters, doesn't remember how big or small, because we're a team and we do it together. Another question, could you just put up a couple classrooms and call it good? We could, but as I've said, this is not just about space. That's the driver right now. It's about having those programs. It's about having the tools needed to do the best job of teaching our kids. As somebody, like if you think of it, tools as in trades, I remember I used to be a carpenter in the summers, and I would much rather put a roof on with a nail gun than with my hand, because it makes it more efficient. And that's what we want to be. We only get 4 years with these kids. We need the best tools possible to build that foundation of Jesus Christ in their life. The eighth question, is it going to be easier for pickup and drop-off? At the end of the day, it will be. But it may be a little more dicey. I mean, we have kid drivers and we have a lot of people moving in and out like this. We're going to try and make it way more efficient when you get in here and you can loop out in the same directions, but we'll work on that. I get a lot of questions on vouchers, because people say a lot of this is driven by the Indiana Choice Plan. What happens if those go away? So this is important. I was downstate a couple weeks ago in Indianapolis talking to some legislators about this, and we asked 2 questions. The first one is this ever going to go away, the Choice Plan? And they were very clear to me. They said, no, it's not going away for a number of reasons. One, it's so big right now. They're giving millions and millions and millions of dollars away to so many kids in the state of Indiana, and the bigger something gets, it's harder to be taken away. The second thing is So many of either the legislators' kids and families and people are on this. And the third thing is, it saves the state money. And fourthly, there's also this part of it where it's so big right now that if they ended it, some of the schools couldn't absorb all of these kids getting back into the system. So if it did go away, there might be this a huge grandfathered in period where schools would have a time to adjust. But the other side of that is there's something about once kids get here, they love it and they realize the importance of Christian education and the difference it can make. And once they're there, the money is not as big a deal. It's still a big deal. The second part is we always ask, what if the state puts us in a position where they are forcing us to do something as a Christian school we cannot do? So we asked about that too, and they were very clear, and some of our representatives down there were saying, that's why they call it the Indiana Choice Plan, where schools get that freedom and the choice to be able to rule and govern the way they want to do. It's also one of the reasons they never really want to fully fund the entire thing. There's always that 10 to 15% that we have to take care of and a parent has to take care of. That's that freedom that we're allowed to have. So there's no promises on anything, but I felt that was important to say. Someone asked me about enrollment projections. Where are we going? And I have a chart, but the chart has been so unreliable lately. It's been wrong the last 3 years. So we're trying to find a new chart. But if you look at our feeder schools and how they're busting at the seams and had to stop, they've cut off enrollment and how our enrollment's gone. Even in the old model, we're expected to be above 500 really soon and keep growing in the next, I think in 8 years we're going to be at 580 according to that old model, which has been wildly inaccurate. So our projections are looking good. We're trying to find a better way of projecting the enrollment, but sometimes transfers are such a hard thing to project. And finally, was the building ready for additional phases? And yes, we built this to be phased. That was always part of the plan. And now that plan has become a reality. Even when you look on the front, all those windows, and you'll see the place is all brick, but in that commons area, there's that temporary stuff. So we're ready. And I'm hoping that you're ready. So that's the quick version. I am sorry the other day that this did not work out, but hopefully you got all your questions answered. If you didn't, feel free to email me, call me. I'd love to answer those. And we'd love to have your vote. You have until Monday to do that. And if everything goes well, you're going to be hearing a lot from me in the next few weeks, months, on how we can partner together. And I did want to say this before I quit. I ended the other night like this. I've been amazed over my 24 years here at the generosity of this community. And I've heard for so many years how the waning of Christian education. And it's never been the case in this community. And every day you guys step up to say Christian education matters. And it's inspiring. And it makes teachers and myself and everyone who works here inspired to continue to work here because we know how much you value it and support it. Because we all have the same thing that we want. We want our kids, our grandkids, our friends to grow up and strong Christian people ready to be difference makers in God's kingdom, wherever that leads them. So thank you for your generosity as always, and we're going to need it again, and we'll be hearing a lot more from me. So I hope you have a great weekend, and let me know if you have any questions, and you know those 3 places to vote. Thank you.